Hi there! Before starting this video, I did want to address the things that have been happening the past few weeks regarding the death of George Floyd, the protests and riots, and police brutality in general. Personally, I've been putting off making this video because I did not think it was appropriate to post something like this when there were so many other things to be talking about and paying attention to. With so much information and evidence available on social media, I did find that to be a very emotionally taxing thing. And I did not feel like I was in the right headspace to even want to engage in a video like this. But I did want to say, because I am now filming this, that does not mean that I think that issues have been solved or that things have gotten better or that we should move on from talking about the Black Lives Matter movement and police brutality. But I do think that I now am in a better place emotionally to move on to some other things that I've liked doing before. But again, I don't think that means that things have gone back to normal, because this isn't a deviation from normal. This is the reality of the United States and their police system. Police brutality certainly is not a new thing in the United States, but I do think that the ability to record on our phones and social media has forced people with privilege to see the reality of police brutality. I don't want to make this video about my own experiences because I am not Black, and I think we should be listening to Black voices right now. So I will be linking videos down below to Black creators who have talked about this issue. I encourage you to check these videos out regardless of where you live or who you are or what your race is, because this issue goes beyond the United States and it goes beyond police, and I think everyone could benefit and learn something from watching them. I'm also going to leave links down below for resources and petitions that still need to be signed and places to donate. I also encourage you to check those out because in any way you can help, it will help. Anyway, I hope everyone is taking care of themselves in whatever way that they can. And just a reminder before I start this video that Black lives will always matter, and we can't stop talking about this issue just because it's kind of died down in the media. This is something we should always be talking about because clearly the racial disparities that we see have not gone away, and they're not going to go away anytime soon if we don't actively try to change them. So yeah, please check out the links I'm going to leave down below. Thank you. Hello, my name is Elise, and this is my Asian readathon wrap-up video. Before I start this video, I'd like to first announce that my tripod is currently made up of a set of drawers, 3 boxes, a little suitcase thing, 2 books, and a cup full of coins, which is precariously just sitting on there. If you watched my first video, which was my booktube newbie tag, yeah, my tripod fell a lot, and now I'm just living on the edge, yeah, with a cup of coins, ceramic cup, just kind of hanging out there. Yeah. I'm also noticing how bad I need a haircut. What is this and that and this and who's she? Who knows? Anyways, on to more important things. This is my Asian readathon wrap-up video. For those who don't know, the Asian Readathon is a reading challenge by Read with Cindy. I will link to her channel down below if you don't know who she is. But basically, the goal of the challenge is to read books by Asian authors and with Asian characters. This challenge took place last month in May, which was Asian Heritage Month. There are different prompts available to help choose what you were going to read. I think you were also supposed to choose authors from different countries, so that way you would further diversify your reading, which I chose to do too. And yeah, this is going to be a summary of what I read and what I thought of those books. I did try to read books that I already own because I own a lot of books that I haven't read, so I thought that would be productive to get some books off my shelf. But Cindy, along with some other collaborators, helped put together this huge list of books by Asian authors or containing Asian characters, and I'm going to link that down below because I've never seen a master list that great and that large and so detailed, so hopefully you'll get something out of it, because even though we're not in Asian Heritage Month anymore, I think we should still be reading Asian authors. So the first prompt is read a book by an Asian author. Simple enough. The book I chose for this prompt was Love, Hate, and Other Filters by Samira Ahmed, who is an Indian author. I had no idea what this book was about when I started reading it, and I kind of just thought it was going to be a cheesy romance, but it turned out to be a lot more than that. The book follows a girl named Maya, who is a Muslim senior in high school whose dream it is to make her love of film into a career. But the one issue is that her parents want her to stay close to home and go to the University of Chicago, but she wants to go to New York University. There's also some controversy because her family came from India, but Maya was born and raised in the United States. So there's some cultural differences and some arguments about what it means to be a Muslim American. And there's some controversy about what is expected of Maya. Her parents want her to marry an Indian boy, but Maya has fallen in love with a white boy named Phil. When I started this book, I had no idea what it was about, and I kind of thought it was just going to be a cheesy romance based on the cover. I know we're not supposed to judge books by their covers, but yeah, that's what I thought it was going to be about. And at some points it was kind of like that. There was definitely a center theme of love. Maya was confused to whether she wanted to be with the boy that her parents had set her up with or if she wanted to be with the boy Phil from her school. But that's definitely not all to this book. There's some very heavy real themes in this book that didn't appear until about halfway through, but they are very central to the message of this story. Samira Ahmed does a good job of depicting Islamophobia on a more wide-scale, large end, but also portrays it in a more personal, close-to-home way. And I like this because it shows how this is a deeply ingrained problem in the United States, but also how it can affect individuals. Overall, I was really impressed with Love, Hate, and Other Filters. I thought it was really well-balanced. There was a good mixture of teenage issues like college and first relationships and fights with your parents, but there was also a cultural element of what it means to be Muslim when your family is from India but you were born in America, and there was the other layer of what it means to be Muslim in America when the stereotype in America is Muslims are terrorists. And I just thought that Samira Ahmed did a good job of putting all of these elements in one story and making them all seem important in this one character, Maya. I think the one thing that I didn't really like about this book was Maya's relationships. Again, I don't want to spoil too much, but she does go back and forth between these two boys, and I did think that her actions and the way she went about it was a little questionable. But yeah, I don't want that to take away from the rest of the story because I did think it was really well done. The second prompt is read a book featuring an Asian character or written by an Asian author who you can relate to. So for this, I chose a book called Letters to Montgomery Clift by Noel Alumet. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. But yeah, this book is by a Filipino author and it is about a Filipino boy, and I am half Filipino, so that's why I chose this. I would have loved to choose a book for this prompt about a biracial person. I am half white, half Filipino, but I did struggle to find a book that is like that. So if you have any recommendations, leave them down below. I would love to read them. But yeah, this book I was extremely impressed with. I bought it a couple years ago on Thrift Books. I have no idea why I bought it. I have not heard anyone talk about this book before. I think I might have saw it was by a Filipino author or about a Filipino boy, and that's probably why I bought it. But yeah, I've not seen anyone talk about this book. And looking at Goodreads, as of right now, it has 224 ratings and 19 reviews. So yeah, definitely not popular at all, but I think that's a shame because I was definitely blown away by this book. It was published almost 2 decades ago, so it's old. You'd probably have to find a used copy if you're interested or look online, but I do highly recommend this book, and I'll give you the summary. I have to convince you. It's about a boy named Bong Bong who lives in the Philippines during the Marcos regime, but is eventually sent to the United States to escape all the violence. Unfortunately, before Bong Bong leaves the United States, he witnesses his parents get brutally attacked by the Marcos regime because his father was writing things against them. In the United States, Bong Bong lives with his aunt named Yuna, but she is incredibly abusive and doesn't really care about him. However, to deal with the emotional toll of all the events going on, Bong Bong tries one of Auntie Yuna's practices, which is to write letters to the dead. And he chooses to write to a dead movie star named Montgomery Clift, who was a real person. These letters are featured throughout the book in letter format. They're integrated amongst the story, but basically they're like a diary entry. And Bong Bong uses these letters to state his feelings, say what's going on, to voice his thoughts about his missing parents and the hope that maybe he'll see them again. Later on, Bong Bong is taken in by a foster family who gives him the American name Bob. While he's with this family, Bong Bong experiences a lot of other emotional things, and he continues to write his letters, but his relationship with Montgomery Clift starts to go beyond just letters, and he starts to see him and touch him and feel him, and it's as strange as it sounds, but I promise it's good. I promise it is executed well. And while the book is named after this really weird experience with a dead movie star, it does encompass many other very serious topics. I have a list of them that I will say right now, just in case you're interested and you do want to know ahead of time. There's child abuse, politics, graphic torture, kidnapping, disappearing persons, mental illness, self-harm, discussions of sexuality, immigration, and teen pregnancy. Not that those are all bad things necessarily, but they are heavy topics in this book. But I do think if you can stomach those conversations and descriptions, it is definitely worth it. I have not read a book like this that covers so many of these issues, also through the eyes of an Asian immigrant, and also an Asian immigrant who discovers he's gay. There's so much going on, and I keep emphasizing that because that's something this book does so well. It takes so many issues over the course of a lifetime that someone can realistically experience and gives it a realistic way to how someone might respond to something like that. Despite my very long list of serious topics, I do want to announce right now that it has a good ending, so it's worth it. I think this is a new favorite for me. Definitely went on that favorite shelf on Goodreads, so I would check it out. Hopefully I convinced you that it was worth it. And I also just enjoyed reading a book from a Filipino author about a Filipino person, because that's not something I have seen very often in the books I've read. So the third prompt is read a book featuring an Asian character written by an Asian author who is different from you. For this prompt, I chose The Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini, who is an Afghan author. I think a lot of people have read this book for school or just have read it in general. I have not, so this was my first read of it, and once again, I was very impressed. I'm not going to go too in depth about what this book is about because it's a very popular book that many people have heard of, but basically it is about a young boy who lives in Afghanistan with his father, and his father also lives with his servant and his servant's son, and this son becomes friends with the main character, kind of. That's like the thing in the book. But yeah, it's about the story of this main character and how he grows up and immigrates to the United States when Afghanistan becomes war-torn. There's just a lot of serious, very graphic things going on, very heartbreaking story, and there's themes of friendship and betrayal and family, and yeah, lots to process. I have read a lot of serious books for the Asian Readathon. Kind of a good thing, kind of not. It gets to be a lot when you're reading them one after another. But yeah, I really enjoyed this book. I found it hard to read, which I think was the author's intention. It should not be an easy book to stomach, but it definitely felt like the kind of book where you feel like you're in it. Like, I felt tired while I was reading it. There was just so much to process and so much loss in there that I felt like I was going through that too. I think that would be my only complaint for this book, that there's just so much, and towards the end I didn't feel any less of it. There was no great big happy wrapped up ending, and I think for this book that works quite well. That is very realistic. That was definitely intentional on the author's part, but I think personally for me that was a bit much to deal with, but if you can deal with that, highly recommend. And finally, the last prompt was read a book recommended by an Asian, and for this I chose Where the Mountain Meets the Moon by Grace Lin. This is a middle grade book, and I chose it because an Asian friend of mine gave it to me many years ago when this would have been an appropriate book for my age group. I did not read it then, so I decided to read it now. And yeah, I think if I read this back when I got it many years ago, I would have really enjoyed it. And I did really enjoy it now. Definitely below my age group, but it was still enjoyable for me now. I would like to do a little close-up of the cover because it is gorgeous. Look at that, and fun, very fun. There's lots of illustrations. that I'm trying to find. Here we go. Okay, maybe that's not the most fun one. Hold on. Yeah, look at that. Look at how fun that is. Yeah, I read mostly young adult. They're not illustrations, so this was a fun surprise. But yeah, the summary, which is probably more important. But basically, it's about this young girl named Minley who lives in the Valley of the Fruitless Mountain. So Minley's family, along with the rest of the town, are dealing with poverty. There's not much food, there's not much money going around. So to pass the time, Minley's father tells her stories. Now, her mother doesn't really like her father telling these stories because she thinks they're just filling her head with nonsense. But Minley takes them very seriously and actually feels inspired to take these stories and save her town. So overall, it's an adventure story where she leaves her home and goes on all these little mini adventures and meets all these fun characters so that she can hopefully bring prosperity back to her hometown. One thing that I thought that was really fun about this story was that there were little tales embedded in the story. So basically, there's the chapter, and in the chapter there would be a little tale. So the character would say, well, let me tell you a story, and then there's the story. I definitely thought that was a very fun element, especially if you are middle grade age. I think that would have been something very appealing to me in that age group. So yeah, I do recommend this one too. Also, as a little bonus, this was not part of the Asian Readathon prompts, but I wanted to read another Asian author, so I read The Young Leets by Maria Liu. Not gonna do a summary, I think, but yeah, it was okay. I liked Legend a lot more. I miss Legend. I reread it last year. Kind of want to reread it again. I missed Day in June, but yeah. So overall, I was really impressed with all the books that I read for the Asian Readathon. I really wasn't expecting to like all of them, especially since I was just picking books off my shelf. And I mentioned this in my first video, but I don't really buy books necessarily because I'm interested in them. I am a sucker for deals, so if I see a book for $1, I'm probably gonna buy it, and that's where I get most of my books. But yeah, I was incredibly impressed, and I recommend all the books that I mentioned in this video. I'm gonna leave links down below in case you missed the title or author, and I encourage you to check them out. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you read some more Asian authors in the future, and if you need something to read, I hope you check out one of the books I mentioned in this video. And yeah, please check out the links down below. I'm sorry, I'm gonna leave a lot of links, but especially check out all of the links I am leaving for the Black Lives Matter movement and places you can help. And check out the videos I'm gonna leave because they are great. And they definitely provide information and reflections on people's personal experiences that you should hear. So in whatever way you can, please help out. Thank you again. Bye. I got a ring light, a little mini thing from eBay, and I don't know how people use these because after filming I am starting to get very dizzy from seeing in the light, and every time I close my eyes there's like a little circle in behind my eyelids and I'm not feeling great.